On the bottom, Samech Amud Beis. Oh, good morning, Charles.
Good morning.
At the bottom. Be precise, 6 lines from the bottom. Amar Mar. So this whole brisa, which is coming off the Mishnah, teaching you that basically the general rule is you have to be liable for idol worship. You have to serve it in the way it's usually served, except for 5 things. 4 of them are the things that are done inside the base of Mikdash, and 1 is bowing down, which is included. Those 5, even if you serve a idol, which it's not the regular way to serve it, and if you do it, either you sacrifice an offering to it, or you burn incense next to it, or you bow down to it, you're still going to be liable, even though it's called Shelo Kedarka and it's unnatural way. Now, Amar Mar. So now Amar Mar always goes back to what we previously said. Hayisi Omer, this brisa we had earlier said, the Gemara entertained the thought that maybe that pasuk of Zoveach Yechram, that the pasuk which taught us that slaughtering an animal to avodah zarah, to idols, causes us to be liable. The Gemara at one point thought maybe it's referring to actually slaughtering bachutz, meaning slaughtering an animal outside the area where that you're allowed to. So says the Gemara, how could you entertain such a thought? The pasuk says Zoveach Yechram. Yechram means to get killed, and yet Zoveach Kachim Bachutz Karisu. To slaughter things outside your area that you're allowed to gets you kares, and yet the verse here tells you get killed. So how did you entertain such a thought? Says the Gemara, you would have thought that you're right. If you got warned for slaughtering outside the permitted area, you would get killed. If you didn't get warned, you would get kares, just like Shabbos. Shabbos, if you get warned and you do it anyways, skila. If you know it's wrong and you don't get warned, kares. Kamash Malan, the pasuk tells you that it's not referring to slaughtering outside the permitted area, rather it's referring to slaughtering for a god, slaughtering to a avodah zarah, and for that one gets killed. Okay, now earlier we said that this zoveach, slaughtering, is the paradigm for the other 3 services that are done inside the base of Mikdash, which we use those 4 to teach us that if you do any of those 4, whether it's a slaughtering or whether it's burning incense or pouring wine, so I guess really those 3. Those three are really the ones that even if you do it to an idol, which is in an unnatural way, you get killed. And also, we learned out another verse to tell you even bowing down. So now, maybe instead of that pasuk of bowing down, the verse of bowing down, just to teach you, that if you bow down to an idol, even though it's not usually bowed down to, you're still liable. Maybe it's really singled out to teach you a general rule. What would that rule be? It says Rav Chanan Labai, Ema Yatza Hishachamo Lamed ala klal kulo. Maybe the Torah singled out bowing down to idols, not to teach you a specific law, but to teach you a general law. What would the general law be? That just like bowing down is a way of honoring somebody, often Ravinu bowed down, others bowed down, it's a way you greet somebody. So that's what's called derech kavod. It's an honorary way to do things. So maybe you would think any other honorary way, you should also be liable, even if you do it to an idol, which is not naturally treated with honor. For example, hugging, kissing an idol, right? Those are things that when you greet people, that's an honorary thing to do. Depends who you meet, I guess, but those are generally things that are derech kavod. So maybe, why do you only say that hishtachava, bowing down, you're liable if you bow down to an idol, even though the idol is not generally bowed down to? Maybe it's your general rule that anything that's honorary, like kissing and hugging, things like that, if you do that to any idol, even an idol that's not usually hugged, you should also be liable. So that's the question we're going to struggle with for a while. Why doesn't bowing down teach you a rule and not a specific detail? So if you'll tell me that would be true, and then v'chi tema zoveach lamali, So then, if that's true, then you can just learn everything out from Hishtachava. What do you need the other verse of Zoveach for? It's funny because you you could have used this verse to teach you that any of the things that are done in the Beis Hamikdash, you're also liable for. I guess that would all be subsumed under bowing down, maybe. Either way, so what's Zoveach for? So Lamali, so you'd say you'd use it for itself, Legufei. Maybe you would use this verse for itself. What would it teach you? The mechashvin me avoda li avoda. So what would happen if when you're doing one service in the Beis Hamikdash, you're thinking that the next service, I'm going to use that to serve idols. For example, you're slaughtering an animal with intent to take its blood and sprinkle it to an idol. So you didn't sprinkle it yet, but without slaughtering it, you can't get the blood. So how do you view that? So the Itmar says the following teaching: Hashochet behema lizrok dam al avodas chachavim. A person slaughters an animal to throw the blood to an avodah zara, lahaktir chelva, or to sacrifice its fats to avodas chachavim. So you didn't do it yet, but we know that when you slaughter an animal, we know that something called pigul. You have the wrong things in mind, you can invalidate the animal. It's like a similar idea. So now, this is a machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. If it's going to be considered avodah zara for just doing this, then the animal itself is prohibited. Anything which is served for avodah zara is forbidden from getting any benefit from. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Amar Asura. He learns from somewhere else that when you have in mind to slaughter the animal with the intent to throw its blood or sacrifice its fats for idol worship, right now the animal already becomes prohibited because that's already considered avodah zara. It's already considered idol worship. But he learns that from somewhere else, not from this pasuk. Reish Lakish Amar Muteris. Reish Lakish says no. He has no source that teaches you that just thinking about throwing blood makes the animal prohibited. So now, Hanich le Rabbi Yochanan. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not a question because our verse of Zoveach would never teach you this halacha that if you're thinking about avodah zara, that you'll be liable because he already learned that from somewhere else. So really, the Zoveach would be used, would not be available for that. However, Reish Lakish, who has no source for such a thing, that if you're thinking about throwing blood to the idols, that it would prohibit the animal right now because it's also a form of idol worship. So El Reish Lakish Vayikra, according to Reish Lakish, that verse Zoveach would be available to teach you that. So once again, bowing down to idol worship taught us one thing, that if you bow down even to an idol that's not naturally bowed down to, you're liable. On that we asked, maybe it should be a general rule that any honorary form of anything honorary you should be liable for, even if the idol is not naturally greeted, but you'd still be liable for that. If that's true, then what do you need the other verse for? Zoveach. Maybe you need it for this halacha of thinking about throwing blood to idol worship. But that's only going to work for Reish Lakish because he has no source from anywhere else in the Torah that such a thing is prohibited. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he already has a source that's prohibited. So this verse, Zoveach, would be unnecessary. So now, the Gemara is now going to attack both of these assumptions. Maskefla Rav Papa asks, Ulu Rabbi Yochanan lo ba'ikra. What you think according to Rabbi Yochanan, he doesn't need a verse. Ad kan lo ka'as Rabbi Yochanan ela behema. Rabbi Yochanan only prohibited the animal. The animal is going to be prohibited if you slaughter it with intent to throw its blood to the idols. Aval gavra lo barkatalahu. But who said Rabbi Yochanan went so far to treat it as it's really avodah zarah that we're going to kill a guy for? Maybe all that happens is that the animal becomes prohibited because you slaughtered it with the wrong intent, just like pigul, you slaughtered with the wrong intent. But who says it's going to be? Who says it's going to be enough to kill a person? So maybe even for Rabbi Yochanan, asakra lichiyuve gavra l'ktala. So even Rabbi Yochanan could use this verse to teach you that he could use this verse to teach you that you're going to be killed. Yeah. So okay. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan would still need the verse. Now the other way. Masket Rav Aka breder of Ika Reish Lakish. Mi by Ikra. You think Reish Lakish needs a pasuk? Ad kan lo kashari Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish only permitted Ela Behema, even the animal, which when slaughtered, the owner had intent, the blood should be thrown onto the idol. He said the animal would be permitted. Aval Gavra Barkatalahu. But Reish Lakish says, okay, that's the animal. Specific laws about an animal, because only Pigel can invalidate the animal. But you should still be considered an idol worshiper, and we should kill you. What's this similar to? And this looks a little bit of a jump. You have a non-Jew who goes and bows down to a mountain. So now, bowing down to a mountain, the mountain's attached to the ground. The mountain itself is going to be permitted, even though the person is going to be killed. The uvda b'sayif. So we have an example of something where you worship it, it is permitted, and yet the person is killed. So to here, the animal can be permitted, but that's not indicative of the fact that the person should not be killed. Because I'll show you that just as when you bow down to an avodah zarah, the avodah zarah can be permitted, and the person will still be killed. It's just difficult because the mountain, there's a special verse that says that only if you serve idols on the mountains, but not the mountains themselves. Here you don't have that. So Rashi explains a little bit that even though you didn't do idol worship yet, because you didn't throw the blood, but since you can't get to the blood without slaughtering the animal, so the mere slaughtering is also considered part of your idol worship. Because the only way to get to the blood is by slaughtering. So even the slaughtering itself is considered like you worship the idol. So okay, so that both of those assumptions got rejected. Now, that which we were speaking about, that which Rabbi Chanan told Abaye, so that which your suggestion was that bowing down to idols should teach us that any form of honorary greetings should be considered idol worship, even if the idol is not served in that fashion. That was your suggestion. If that's true, what do you do with the following verse? The verse in Devarim Yud Beis says, Hashem tells us, be careful that to not serve idols. It says there, Hashem says, be careful. Don't say, oh, look how the non-Jews are serving their idols. Maybe I'll do just like them. Don't do that. Now, the word yavdu, which literally means to serve, apparently has an implication of only serving it in its natural way. La'avod, to serve something means to doing it in its natural way. To doing it in an unnatural way is not included in that implication of yavod. So now, it sounds like the verse tells you that the Jews might come and say, maybe we'll serve idols just like the non-Jews, serving them in their natural way. So who are you coming to exclude? Sounds like only if you serve it in its natural way, that's going to be a problem. But if it's unnatural way, that's not going to be a problem. But if you have the word hishtachava, bowing down, teaching you a general rule that you're going to be obligated for even unnatural service of idols, so what would this verse be coming to exclude? So maybe you'll say it'll be coming to exclude non-honorary service of idols. What's an example of that? So if you defecate, in front of zovchim, in front of idols that are not usually defecated in front of, so that would not be included in hishtachava, because bowing down is an honorary way to do things. Defecating is a disgraceful way. So maybe if you disgrace yourself to an idol which is not usually served in that way, so then you will be not liable. So says the Gemara, no. That you'll learn that, so maybe it's coming to exclude that. Says the Gemara, no, that's already excluded. I'll call derech kibud. Bowing down teaches you already that only serving idols, whether it's the natural way to serve or the unnatural way to serve, is only liable if you do it in derech kavod, in an honorary fashion. But to defecate yourself in front of an idol, that would not be liable. So that can't be what that verse Eichayav is coming to exclude. We're looking to exclude something which is we're looking to exclude idol worship in its unnatural fashion, which is not already excluded from hishtachava. So it says the Gemara, we could try again. One who defecates himself in front of Marcolis. Marcolis was the idol that was served by throwing rocks at it. So it's already being served in a disgraceful way by getting rocks thrown at it. So maybe you'll say once the worship of this idol is to throw rocks at it, so what's the unnatural way to do it? To defecate in front of it. So maybe for that you would have thought you're going to be liable, to which the verse tells you in Devarim that you're not liable. You would have thought, since its service is already disgraceful, af kol bezayon, maybe any kind of disgrace you should be liable for, not just throwing rocks. Kamashmal on the verse in Devarim, Eichayavdu tells you that no, Marcolis is only going to be liable if you serve it in its natural fashion of throwing rocks, but not in its any other fashion like defecating in front of it. Okay. How do I know, though, if I shecht an animal in front of Marcolis, which is the idol that you throw rocks at, how do I know that I'm liable? Shinamar, as the verse says, "V'lo yizbechu od as zivchehem la'seirim." So now, there's some verse in Vayikra telling you that you shouldn't slaughter animals to the seirim. You shouldn't slaughter animals, sounds like, to a form of, it's a demon. Yeah, the China has a demon. That's interesting. Seirim usually means like a animal. It's a goat. Yeah, here means demons. Okay. Interesting. How do you know it's demons? Don't know. Okay. Either way. So yeah. So you should not slaughter animals to the demons. Now, what's this talking about? If it's teaching you to do things in Eino Inyan Lekedarka, it's not teaching you that you should serve the idol naturally, because that we know already, that you're liable for serving things naturally. So what must this pasuk be teaching me? Don't do this form of avodah zarah. Well, if it's the natural way to serve the demon, so I know that already from Eicha Yavdu. So must be in Einyan Kedarka, the Chesiv Eicha Yavdu, Tineu Einyan L'Shalo Kedarka. Oh, but now what's going to happen? If you told me that bowing down to idol worship is a general rule, which is going to teach me that even the not natural service of idols is liable, so I just learned that from over here. Shalo Kedarka Mishtachava Nafka. I know that already from Mishtachava. Sounds like maybe bowing down is not teaching me a general rule. Says the Gemara, no. Really, bowing down to idol worship teaches you even unnatural service. However, that verse of Lo Yizbechu in Vayikra is going to be very specific. Hasam, bizoveach lahachis. You are slaughtering the animal out of anger, yeah, without intent to accept upon yourself this idol, this demon, as God. Rather, you're just doing it out of anger, and yet the pasuk still says you shouldn't do that because you're going to be liable. Okay. Rav Hamnuna irkusulei ture. Rav Hamnuna lost his oxen. They got lost. He went to go find them. In the middle, Pagabe Rabbah, he met Rabbah. And Rabbah's going to ask him a contradiction in two Mishnayos, which will take us for a while. How to solve those two Mishnayos. 7, 8, 9 answers. Yeah. So And so, why does it matter that he lost his oxen? Who cares? Why is that? He went to lose. He lost his animals. And by the way, Rav asked him. So one interpreter said, because you see his love of Torah, even though he's worried about his property, and but still, when someone came with a question, he gave him the time of day and answered this question. Okay. Most people, when they're worried about the money, they lost their wallet. So imagine you lose your wallet, you go outside, and I just have a question for you on Daf Yomi. Do you have a few minutes? Pagwe Rabba. So Rama Lei Masisin Adadi. Our Mishnah says this statement, Echad HaOved. Sounds like you have to actually serve the idol to be liable. A Mishnah by Mesis, by one who convinces others to do Avodah Zarah, it sounds like even if you don't serve it yet, if you agree to serve it, you're going to be liable. So do you have to serve the idol to be liable? Or do you have to agree to serve the idol to be liable? That's going to be the contradiction with many interesting answers. And then I'll get involved in some firm Torah about Haman, if we get there, hopefully. Okay, so Tanan, Obed in, Omer lo. Only if you serve the Avodah Zarah, not if you agree to serve the Avodah Zarah. V'ha'anan Tanan, later on in six daf from now, it says, Ha'omer, Evod, Elech, the Evod, Nelech, V'navod. Let's go, I'm going to go and serve. We'll go and serve. Sounds like just the mere speaking that you're going to accept to do something is already enough. That's the contradiction. So Rav Hamnuna told him, Amrlei ba'omer, Eini mekabel alai ella be'avoda. So our Mishnah sounds like it's talking about where you didn't accept ahead of time to go and serve Avodah Zarah. So if you never accepted it, so you have to wait till you go and do it. The other one was where you fully accepted, I'm going to go and serve Avodah Zarah. Once you had a full acceptance, so then you're already going to be liable right then and there, even if you haven't served it yet. Our Mishnah is talking about where you didn't accept it beforehand, you just went and served it. Yeah. Okay. So says Rav Yosef, Amar Tanai Shekalta Alma. You forgot about all the Tanaim in the world. Like what you're saying is a machlokas Tanaim. You gave your own answer, but this is already an older conversation that we've had. What's that? The Tanya HaOmer Bo Avdunu. Let's go and serve Avodah Zarah. Yeah. Rabbi Meir Mechayev. He's Mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda Poter. Rabbi Meir says you're liable, and Rabbi Yehuda says you are not liable. Oh, so let's see. So it sounds like the mere accepting of Avodah Zarah. Rav Meir says you're chayiv, and Rabbi Yehuda says you're not chayiv. You actually have to go do it. So now, where's their argument? Heicha de palchu. If you actually went and served it, kula amalo pligi. Everyone agrees you're liable. If you actually went and served it, dichsiv lo sas lecha pesel. That you can't make for yourself a god. So if you went and did that, for sure you're liable. Ki pligi, when did they argue b'dibura ba'alma? The mere accepting avodah zarah upon yourself, that's a machlokas. Rabbi Meir savar, dibura milsahi. Speaking is a real thing. Speaking is the same as serving. He treats speech very severely. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda savar dibura lav milsahi. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Speech is speech. It's important. It's not the same as bowing down to avodah zarah. So therefore, you who said that everyone's going to agree to the other Mishnah when you accept it upon yourself to do avodah zarah, that's a machlokas Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. You can't say it unilaterally. It's not going to work. So now that's what Rabbi Yosef originally said. Then Hadar Amar Rabbi Yosef Lav Milsi. Rabbi Yosef rejected his own statement, and he said, "No, it's not true what I just said. Rather, the Amri that Fiul Rabbi Yehuda b'dibur nami chivim echad. Even Rabbi Yehuda is going to agree that with just speech alone, you could be obligated in idol worship. Rabbi Yehuda Omer la'olam eno chayiv ad sheyomer evod elech ve'evod nelech v'navod. Even Rabbi Yehuda is going to agree to that Mishnah later on Samach Zayin, that when you say, I will go serve, let's go serve together, that you will be liable. So if that's true, so then what do Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir argue about? They argue about something relating to speech by idol worship. What do they argue about? So he says, What's the argument? B'meisis la'atzmo. You convince yourself. Meisis la'atzmo. Sorry, you turn yourself into an idol, and you convince others to serve you. Right? Sounds like a nice modern day thing, right? Yeah. You become a big person, everyone should follow me, right? So now what's that machlokas? The Amri lay in Kamifli, yeah, they argue about that, right? That's it, translated. So now, Mar Savar, one opinion holds, who will do? Rav Meir holds your chayv and Rabbi holds your pater. So now, Mar Savar Mesis la'atzmo, Shamilei. The in dika amrile kushtahu. People, you're gonna walk over to a group of people. Listen, I'm an idol, and you should come and serve me, and they're all gonna say yes. So is that yes a true statement? Meaning they've accepted me as their god. So according to Reb Meir, yeah, and therefore they'll be liable. Umar savar meis atzmo lo shamile. They're not really gonna listen to you. Meaning, if you convince them to go serve another idol, then they'll listen to you. But to serve yourself, they're not going to buy into that. They're smarter than that. So why'd they say yes? Neimer Amri, Masha, the people are going to say, Ma yishna ihu minan. Like, what made you an idol versus us? You're human, I'm human. Why are you idol versus me? So if they tell me the sun's an idol, okay, I understand. I'm me, and the sun's the sun, does amazing things. But to convince a person that another person's an idol, that's so, and that which they says, yes, we accept you as a avodah zarah, they're just laughing on him. They're laughing on him. They don't mean it seriously. So the machlokes of Meir and Rabbi Yehuda is, when you make yourself into an avodah zarah, and people say yes, are they really being serious, and therefore they're liable? Or they're really making fun of you? They're not making fun of you, but they're not really serious, because it's not so convincing to make a human being into an idol. Interesting. Different religions were started by individuals convincing people. Interesting. Certain people in current society, yeah. So, okay, Umas Nisan. So now, according to Rabbi Yosef, he has a new answer for our Mishnah, how to reconcile the two. Do you have to serve or just accept the serve? Umas Nisan can be Achad Amesis, can be Rabbi Manisasim. Our Mishnah here is by an individual that was convinced to go serve idols. Therefore, you have to actually serve the idol. Accepting it is not going to be good enough. And kan barabim hanisasim. So yachid lo mimlach v'toyi basrei. Rabim mimlachi v'lo to basrei. So the difference between an individual and a group of people it sounds like an individual, once he accepts, he's not going to retract on that. However, a group of people, just because they accepted, they are still able to, if everyone decides to retract, they're going to follow them and retract also. Yeah, is that correct? Yeah, it is. Okay, good. So Amar Rabbi Yosef, how do I know this is true, that there's a difference between an individual and a group of people? An individual, once he accepts, there's a good chance he's not going to go back. But by the public, social peer pressure, if everyone decides, never mind, so you'll follow them too. So it says in the Torah, lo soa velo sishma elav. By the parsha of Mesis, of convincing someone to do avodah zarah, it says that you should not go and desire to listen to him. Don't desire to listen to him, don't listen to him. However, if you did do it, if you did desire and you did listen, chayiv, you're obligated, even though you're an individual. So therefore, you see an individual, once he desires and he accepts and he goes to listen, so therefore he is liable. Okay, that's Rabbi Yosef. Second answer. Abaye says, Esvei Abaye, mi shiny bein nisis derabim nisis deyachid. Who told you there's a difference between a single person accepting idols versus a group of people that accept idols? Tanya says the verse right there by Mesis, Ki yesischa chicha benimecha, echad yachid anises, ve'echad rab manisasim. So we know that individual who gets convinced to do avodah zarah is called the parsha of Mesis. He is liable. We also know that if an entire city, the majority of a city, gets convinced to do idol worship, called a Ir Hanidachas, the wayward city, they're also liable. So it says the Brisa, whether you're an individual or you're a group of people, you're both liable for idol worship. V'hotzia kasav yachid, michlal rabim, v'rabim michlal yachid. And yet the Torah specified an individual does avodah zarah and a group of people that do avodah zarah, each one for a reason. So yachid michlal rabim lahachmir al gufo ulahakel mamono. An individual gets killed with stoning, but his money gets spared. So that's why he's singled out. He's unique. Rabim michlal yachid lahakel al gufo ulahakel mamono. Rabim, they only get the sword, right? Sayif, not strangulation, no. I think so. I think your nidaka is only with the sword. So, yeah. So, and however, their money, all their property goes. So each one has something which other one doesn't have, an individual or a. But at the end of the day, they're both liable for idol worship. So Abaye says there's no difference if a group of people or an individual, they're both treated the same. So, the only difference between an individual and a group of people is the death penalty and their property. Everything else, they're going to be exactly the same. So if you're liable for accepting to serve an idol, it doesn't matter if you're an individual or a group of people. So a new answer to the two Mishnayos. Ela marabai kan benises mipi atzmo and kan benises mipi acherim. So says Abai, the difference is if you were nises mipi atzmo, I guess what means you convinced yourself. You went on your own versus you followed others. Mipi atzmo mimlach. If you yourself decide to do avodah zarah, you always might go back on it. You know, people, they decide one thing today, one thing tomorrow, indecisive. However, a group of people, see here, real social peer pressure. If others convince you, there's much less of a chance you're going to go back. Yeah, mipi acherim, garir basrayu. Yeah, so, okay. So that's the difference. If you yourself accepted, or you're with a group of people that accepted upon themselves. Now, Amar Abai and Mina Minula, how do I know that such a distinction would be accurate between a person accepting upon himself versus others convincing you? You shouldn't desire him and listen to him. However, but if you listen to somebody else, then you're liable. Meaning, if you're convinced by someone else, you're less likely to go back on it. If you convince yourself, you're more likely to go back on it. So the Torah tells you, if someone else convinced you, and you desire, then you're liable. But it sounds like only once someone else convinced you. And if you convinced yourself, then there's a chance that you will go back on it. Okay. Rava Amar Idi Benises Bipiachirim. No, both Mishnahs are talking about where someone else convinced you to do avodah zarah. Yet our Mishnah implies you have to do it, and the next Mishnah implies you have to just accept to do it. What's the difference? Had Amarle Kach Ocheles, Kach Shose, Kach Metiva, Kach Meria, and Had Lomarle Kach Ocheles, Kach Shose V'chule. One case is where somebody praised the avodah zarah. Look, it's good to you, it eats like this, it drinks like this, it does all these nice things. So in that case, it sounds like a person is more likely to be convinced. Yeah, so when you know nothing about the avodah zarah, you're more likely to retract, and therefore your acceptance is not considered a full acceptance. However, once you hear about the avodah zarah, it eats, it drinks, it does good, does bad, all these things, then you're more likely seduction. Then you're more likely to, when you accept, it's a real acceptance. Amar Rava, how do I know that this is true? That there's such a distinction between hearing about something and then accepting it versus just accepting it. So mina minallah dichsiv melokei amim asher sevivo seichem hakrov melecha. So the Torah says from the gods of the nations that are surrounding you, the ones that are close to you, and the ones that are far from you. So Mali Krovim, Mali, who cares if they're close or they're far? No, so this is what the Torah means. Close and far means mitivusan shel krovim, from the positive parts of the avodah zara, which is near you. Atalamed mativusan shel rechokim. You'll learn about all the good stuff that the avodah zaras that far away can do. Meaning, if you find out about all the interesting stuff about the avodah zaras now, so then you'll know about avodah zaras that are farther from you. But what do you see? So what does that mean? They're good parts of the avodah zara. Ma'ilav. Is it not a case where someone tells you the Amar Le, Kachocheles, Kachos, it eats like this, it drinks like this, Kach Metiva, Kach Meiriya, it can do good, it can do bad. So that's the Torah is telling you when someone tells you about all the positive parts of the avodah zara, those are the things that you should stay away from. So Shema Mino. Okay. Another answer, number 5, 6. Ravashi Amar, no. The end that tells you, the next mission tells you, if you accept upon yourself avodah zara, you're liable, is talking about B'Yisroel Mumar. It's talking about an apostate Jew. Such a person, just the accepting of the avodah zara is already enough to be liable, because he's already thrown off his Judaism. There's a good chance he's not going to go back. So once he's accepted it, we assume he's not going to go back. A regular person, if he accepts it, he might go back. You're in one mood today and the next mood tomorrow. Depends how dinner was. I don't know. Yeah. So Ravina Amar, no. Simplest answer, Lo Zu Avzu. Really, they're both talking about the same thing. And the Mishnah is being taught in the format of a Lo Zu Avzu. Lo Zu Avzu meaning not only if you serve the idol, our Mishnah, but even if you accept to serve the idol. So no distinction. The same case, it's just teaching you not only the actual serving, but even the accepting. Yeah. Okay. Now here comes perfect. So very interesting. So Itmar ha'ovid avodas kochavim me'ahava u'miyira. One who serves idols from love or from fear. So what is love and what is fear? So I think this is the discussion. Rashi says, me'ahavas adam. It's your best friend at work. You're doing a favor. He invited you to his barbecue, whatever it is. Everyone's bowing down. So because you like him, you'll do it too. But you never accepted the God upon yourself. You just really like the guy. Or Meira. Or you're really scared of the guy. I mean, the guy has a gun to your head. The guy has a sword. The guy is a mafioso. Such a guy, I'll just bow down. Not because I believe in it, just because I'm scared of him. So now, are you chayiv or not? Sounds like it's a fundamental machlokas. How you understand idol worship in the Torah. Abai Amar chayiv. The accepting of a God, whether it's from fear, doesn't matter. That's what the Torah tells you not to do. Do not serve idols. Even if you didn't accept it upon yourself, you're still liable. Rav Amar Pater. Rava says you're Pater. Interesting. Bowing down out of fear. Abai Amar chayiv. Abai says you're chayiv. Why the hapacha? You served it. You bowed down to it. You're chayiv. Rav Amar Pater. What do you mean? Avodah Zarah in the Torah is the acceptance of the God, not the action of serving the God. You have to accept it. If you don't accept the God, then you are not going to be liable. Okay. Siman Eved Yishtach Mashiach. A servant will bow down to the Melech HaMashiach. So, okay, so let's see what that means. Abai that says you're obligated. What's my proof? Titnan ha'oved avodas kachavim. Look at our Mishnah. It says ha'oved. What's it referring to? Ma'ilav echad ha'oved me'ahava u'me'ira. That first ha'oved, what's it referring to? Someone who serves. So we know already. It says ha'mezabeach ha'mekater. What does serving tell you? Must be someone who serves out of love and fear. Even he is chayiv. So proof from our Mishnah. Rabba Amarlach lo k'dimetaretz Rabbi Yirmiyah. We'll answer the Mishnah like Rabbi Yirmiyah answered the Mishnah. That whether you serve the idol in its natural form or in its unnatural form. But they're both referring to when you accepted a God upon yourself. Okay. Amar Abaye, Mina Minala, how do I know that just bowing down, even if you have not accepted him as a God, are you liable? The Tanya, Lo Sishtacha Velahem, you can't bow down to them. Lehem yetam mishtachave, aval atam mishtachave le'adam kamoscha. So you can't bow down to them, the idols, but you could bow down to a person who's like them. So to them, the idols, you can't bow down. To a person who makes himself into an idol, there you could bow down. Meaning, who then makes himself into an idol. Oh, okay. Or else, meaning, why are you bowing down to him? Yeah. Oh, so now, Yachol afilu nevar kehaman. So you would have thought even someone like Haman. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Joseph. I think you're right. You can't bow down to them, but to a person you could bow down. Fine. Yachol, you would have thought even someone like Haman who made himself into a god. Rashi quotes the Megillah Daf Yomi that we know that the Gemara there says Haman made himself into a god because if not, Mordechai would have never not bowed down to him. Why did Mordechai not bow down to Haman? Well, it's because he made himself into a god. So you would have thought even someone who bows down to Haman would be not liable because only the objects, not a human being. Talmud Lomar, the verse tells you, lo savdem, that you can't serve them, including even people. You can't serve people, not just objects. Now, who was Haman? They weren't bowing down to Haman because they accepted him upon himself as a god. Haman, they were serving him out of fear because he's walking around. You better bow down to him. So, what do you see from there? Even though they were serving him out of fear, but still, and still, Mordechai did not bow down to him. So, meaning even though they're bowing down to him out of fear, Mordechai still didn't do it. Why? Because you're not allowed to bow down to somebody out of fear. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So according to Abaya, you are liable. You are liable for bowing down to somebody, even though you're scared of him. Yeah, and that's what the verse comes to include. Lo savdim, you can't even bow down to a person like Haman. Okay, but Rava says kehaman velo kehaman. What it means is kehaman the ihu guf avodos kachavim velo kehaman the ilu Haman meira v'hachalav meira. Rava says no, like Haman, that it's true. Someone who is a person and you accept him as your God, that you're not allowed to do. But if you're only bowing down to him out of fear, so then you are not obligated. Okay. So we have 1 minute. So two things. First of all, according to Rava, that you're not liable when you bow down to somebody out of fear. So what was Mordechai doing? He put the whole Jewish people into risk. Right? That's when I had this question last night, and this morning I saw that Tosfos goes into it. If you're not obligated in bowing down to somebody out of fear, so when do you ever give up your life for avodah zarah? Right? There's three big ones that you give up your life for. One is idol worship. Most cases are a gun to your head, that's always out of fear. So you're not liable for that, and yet you're still obligated to give up your life. How do you reconcile those two? Right? You're not obligated, but yet it sounds like you have to give up your life. So